welcome to Boogie Mama Riffs. Today we're going to be ranking the Iron Maiden albums, my least favourite to my most favourite. I did one recently about Sabbath and you guys seem to like it, so I'm going to do my second ever rankings of Iron Maiden albums. So we're going from number 10 through to number 1. So number 10 on the Iron Maiden albums, and we're only doing the 10 of them. We know they have more than that many albums, they got heaps. My number 10 in the Iron Maiden rankings is X Factor. Now that is a Blaze Bayley album, and it's where he came in as the new guy and everything, and I actually like some of the songs on this album and that, but I just think if I was going to pick out of the first 10 Iron Maiden albums, that would probably be my least favourite. But yeah, nothing wrong with Blaze Bayley. Fear of the Dark is my number 9 on the album rankings, and Fear of the Dark is where Iron Maiden actually didn't use Derek Riggs for the album cover art, and after one of the albums before that, No Prayer for the Dying, they had sort of a picture, I'll put it up soon when I rank it, of a man falling off a building, and they changed it later on. So Fear of the Dark was actually, the artwork was done by someone else, and that also had Yannick Gers there playing guitar in place of Adrian Smith. But there are some good anthemic tracks on there, like Fear of the Dark. If you hear that one live, that's a classic, and there are some good songs in that. But for me, that's number 9. Number 8 in the Iron Maiden rankings is No Prayer for the Dying. Now that's the last one I believe that Derek Riggs did the album cover work for, and that was also Yannick Gers as well, taking over from Adrian Smith on guitar. Like, there are some good songs on No Prayer for the Dying. I believe that's the one I remember when it first came out, where all my friends said that Bruce Dickinson's voice changed to sort of a rougher type of raw voice, and I think that's just because he was having issues with his throat, I believe, but they just wanted to get back to a raw type of album, I believe, after The Seventh Son of the Seventh Son. Number 7, speaking of which, Seventh Son of the Seventh Son. I remember when that first came out too, and I bought the vinyl copy of it, had the posters, and yeah, that album for me is really great. It came out after Somewhere in Time. They're using guitar synth, and they're also using keyboards. For me, it's a little bit like AC/DC Fly on the Wall. If they could remix Seventh Son of the Seventh Son and maybe just bring the keyboards and the spiritual or this sort of, that's what I used to say to my best mate when we first bought that album, that, you know, it just sounds a bit spiritual, that album, but it's got some great tracks on it. Clairvoyant and the title track, it's got some great songs on it. But for me, and if you really listen to the harmonies on guitar, like Adrian Smith and Dave Murray are just doing some unbelievably cool stuff. But yeah, for me, just the mix, the keyboard's a little bit high in the mix and the guitar's a little bit low in the mix, so that's why I had that one at number 7. Number 6 in the rankings, Power Slave. That's where, in my opinion, it's kind of like a bit of a greatest hits Iron Maiden album in a way. They've had the tracks like Aces High and 2 Minutes to Midnight and Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, I believe, just all these cool tracks. And they had the Power Slave tour that followed that. We're not talking about live albums here, but the first Iron Maiden album I bought was Live After Death, and this is basically from the Power Slave tour. And I remember I brought it home, and when I was about 12, 13 years old, my family freaked out. They're like, this is devil music. And then I put it on in the lounge room on the record player, and everyone's going, but they are good guitarists, aren't they? That's what someone was saying in my family. Number 5. And now we get into one of my favourites, including other singers, Killers, where Paul Di'Anno is singing on that. That's his second and last album with Iron Maiden. I like Killers. It's a really solid album. I believe Paul Di'Anno started to think, some of the songs were getting a little bit long and instrumental or something like that. They lost their punky rawness. That's one of the things Paul Di'Anno wasn't happy about with it. And also, that was Iron Maiden's first album, Killers, with Adrian Smith as opposed to Dennis Stratton, their first guitarist, or one of their many first guitarists. I believe Steve Harris is the only original member of the band left. There's some conjecture that maybe Dave Murray and Steve Harris were the original ones, but I believe I've got this right. Steve Harris is the only legit original member of Iron Maiden from the first lineup. Number 4, we're getting into the top 4 of Iron Maiden rankings. Number of the Beast. Now this was a cool album. It still had Clive Burr on drums, and I personally, these are only my opinions on these rankings by the way, but for me personally, I like Clive Burr's drumming. He had a little bit more swing. I like Nico McBrain. I've seen him live. I've heard him for years with the band. He's done such an amazing job before he recently had to just step away on the last tour. But Clive Burr for me, just on this album, it was Bruce Dickinson's first album with Iron Maiden, Clive Burr's last album with Iron Maiden. It just had such cool tracks on it. Really great album, Number of the Beast. And we're getting to number 3 now, is Iron Maiden, their first ever album. I put that one at number 3. That's Paul Di'Anno again, and the guitarist before Adrian Smith, Dennis Stratton. Some great tracks on that. If you can get hold of Iron Maiden the album, the one that has Strange World, one of my favourite tracks of theirs, and also Sanctuary. Some that they have different for UK and US versions, but if you can get the Iron Maiden with Strange World and Sanctuary on that album, to me that's such a solid album. That's number 3 for me. Number 2 is Peace of Mind. I tell you what, that is such an awesome album. That's where Nico McBrain came in. That's where they just really started lifting as a band. They locked in with Adrian Smith, Dave Murray, Nico McBrain, Bruce Dickinson, Steve Harris. All of them were just such solid members, and they all had the same goal in mind to get there, to reach the world with the songs that they wanted to do, which was metal. So Peace of Mind, great album. I love To a Tame Land and songs like that, and just basically for me, you could throw a dart at that album and hit any song on that album, and they're all awesome. And finally, number 1 in my top 10 rankings of Iron Maiden albums is Somewhere in Time. Now, this was, I know I've talked about Derek Griggs a lot about how he did the covers. Apparently this one, Somewhere in Time, Derek Griggs did so much work. If you ever see the artwork on this thing, front and back cover, Derek Griggs did so much work on it that after that he said he's never going to do an album cover that's so intricate ever again. And that's why subsequently, when he did Seventh Son of the Seventh Son, it was a lot more simplified, as you can tell. So Somewhere in Time, a great album. I bought it brand new when it first came out. Actually, my grandma bought it for me. I had to travel 2 hours up and we stayed at my grandma's place, and she used to always buy me something. I know this is a weird story, but my grandma bought me Iron Maiden Somewhere in Time, and she used to listen to records, like Cliff Richard and stuff like that, and in the lounge room, because in those days that's what we did. We didn't really have iPods and earbuds and phones and everything. We had a record player in the lounge room, so if someone brought home a record, that's what everyone's listening to, whether it's your parents with Beach Boys or The Shadows or your grandma with Cliff Richard. Everyone's listening to that record in the whole house. So I brought home to my grandma's Iron Maiden. She bought it for me, Somewhere in Time. We put it on, and my grandma goes, "Yes, it's very good music, isn't it?" So there you go. For me, Somewhere in Time is the number 1 Iron Maiden album, and it's just, for me, I know they use guitar synth in it. Some people say it's a bit, I'm not sure what the word is for it, but it's a themed album. It's similar to Seventh Son of the Seventh Son. Somewhere in Time is a themed album. They just, for me, if you hear some of those songs live, it's just great. And also, these were all produced by Martin Birch. I mentioned this in my last review rankings about Sabbath, how Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules were produced by Martin Birch, and some people tend to think that's how Sabbath's sound kind of changed, but that was also because they had Ronnie Dio. So Martin Birch was a great producer, I think. And yeah, so thank you for watching today. We're going to bring something awesome to you next time. I can't wait to see you